Discover how an incredible farm boy transformed his life and built the amazing Lamborghini legacy. Jake stared out over the sprawling fields of corn, the sun setting like a giant ball of fire casting golden rays across the horizon. He was just a humble farm boy, but within his heart burned a desire that stretched far beyond the confines of rural Indiana. Jake's hands were calloused from years of hard work alongside his family, yet it was the stories from his grandfather, a weathered veteran with eyes that sparkled with resilience, that lit a fire in him. "Never back down," his grandfather would say. "Even the smallest seed can grow into the mightiest tree." This summer, however, things felt different. The air crackled with tension as Jake's father held tightly to tradition, a deep-rooted legacy that Jake reverently cherished yet longed to transcend. He had visions of engineering, of inventing something extraordinary that would spark change and innovation. But in the tight grip of small-town expectations, his dreams felt like wildflowers suffocated in weeds, stunted by doubt. As the annual local fair approached, excitement thrummed through the community. Farmers, merchants, and families flocked to celebrate. Jake had decided to showcase his prototypes, creations born of midnight oil and sheer will. Yet as he set up his booth, he felt the whispers of city kids brush past him, their laughter mingling with disdain. They didn't understand the grit behind his aspirations, and each sneer struck like a thorn in his heart. When the first competition day arrived, disappointment loomed. His prototype stumbled, crashing like a failed harvest. He returned home heavy with failure, staring down at the muddy boots he always wore as he reminisced. Yet amidst the swirling sadness, something sparked inside him, a flicker of determination latent in the shadows of despair. Just as he was wrestling with doubt, a letter arrived, outlining a prestigious young inventors competition, a chance for redemption, a golden opportunity. In this hope, Jake found his purpose once again. His dreams were now tangible, and as he brought his designs to life, he ignored the nagging voice of doubt that whispered, "You'll never escape the farm." The day of the competition dawned, bright and filled with promise. Jake stood before the impeccably dressed judges, a tremor of anxiety rippling through him, memories of scorn replaying in real time. He breathed in deep, gathering the strength of his family and the spirit of his grandfather. Then he unveiled his masterpiece, an extraordinary blend of engineering and artistry. There, in that moment, he was both vulnerable and bold, challenging the whispers that surrounded him. But just as the audience began to lean in, captivated, a panel member raised a brow, questioning his integrity. "What gives a farm boy like you the right to present this invention?" Gasps echoed in the room, the weight of judgment hanging heavy. Panic surged through Jake, a tidal wave of emotions threatening to drown him: fear, inadequacy, determination. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart pounding, he knew this was a pivotal moment. How could he confront the walls of prejudice that towered around him? With the crowd watching, Jake took a deep breath. He didn't just want to showcase his invention. He wanted to showcase his very spirit. In that silence, he stood on the precipice of fear and hope, a young farm boy fighting to prove that greatness could rise from even the humblest of beginnings. The weight of expectations wrestled with his dreams. Storm brewing within him. What would he choose, comfort or the courage to ignite change? As the crowd held its breath, a question hung in the air. Would Jake rise to this challenge, or would he be swept away by the tides of doubt? Jake's heart thundered in his chest, each pulse a reminder of the path he had chosen. The judge's gaze bore into him, unyielding and charged with skepticism. In that moment, Jake understood that his fight was not just for his invention but for the validation of his very existence. "What gives me the right?" he echoed in a trembling voice, feeling the heat of the spotlight. "What gives me the right is my passion, my blood, and the lessons passed down from the generations of farmers before me. The words poured from him with an unexpected clarity, as if he were finally tapping into a deeper current of truth buried beneath layers of fear. He glanced at the panel, then shifted his focus to the audience, faces drawn tight with anticipation. I didn't just build this because I wanted to invent something clever. I built it because I believe that every person, no matter where they come from, has the potential to create something extraordinary. A murmur rippled through the crowd, the tension hanging like a heavy fog. Jake's confidence waxed and waned like passing clouds. He took a step forward, compelled to take them along on his journey. This invention is not just mine. It's a product of every late night my dad spent helping me, every grain of sweat my grandfather shed in the fields. It's proof that dreams grow, just like the corn in the fields behind my house. They start small but can reach for the skies. The panel looked at each other, the tide slowly shifting. Jake's pulse steadied as he explored their expressions. The earlier skepticism was replaced by a flicker of intrigue, a hint of recognition that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't just a farm boy after all. He pressed on, not giving them a chance to fully retreat into doubt. Innovation can come from anywhere as long as you dare to dream and work hard. I poured every ounce of my determination into this project. I want to inspire others to embrace their dreams. 2. We all fear the unknown. But what if we took the leap together? With each word, Jake's courage blossomed. The thrumming pulse of doubt transformed into a steady rhythm of hope, and he could feel the audience begin to lean in, fully present and engaged. When he presented the prototype, it seemed to breathe with life. The judges exchanged glances, their previous hardness softening. Jake demonstrated its unique features, a crescendo of excitement surrounding his every move. This was no longer just a product. It was a piece of his soul, a testament to resilience, grit, and audacity. Just as he was finishing, an unexpected voice piped up from the back of the hall, a familiar one, his father. "Never back down, Jake!" the older man shouted, his heart full of pride and encouragement. The resonance of support surged through the crowd, weaving a connective fabric among them. Jake was on fire now, driven by the energy of the moment, his spirit intertwined with every heartbeat echoing in the room. Challenges are a part of life, but if you hold on to your dreams and refuse to say no to yourself, you can exceed every expectation. As he wrapped up, the room erupted into applause. It wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was about every dreamer who ever dared to imagine a life beyond their surroundings. There was hope in the air, a shared belief in the possibility of greatness. But just as a wave of pride washed over him, the lead judge stood up, a serious expression replacing the earlier glimmer of possibility. "We appreciate your passion, but can we trust that this invention is genuinely yours?" The crowd fell silent, and Jake felt the ground shift beneath him yet again. They wanted proof, not just of his invention but of his claim to the dream. Who was he without validation? Hearts beat, breaths held. This was it, the moment where everything he had built could unravel in an instant. Could he prove himself to the world? Would he be able to stand tall against the judgment of those who long dismissed him? As the weight of the question settled, Jake felt the stirrings of another determination deep within. This was just the beginning. What would he do next to fight for his dream? Jake's mind raced as the lead judge's words hung in the air like a storm cloud threatening to burst. "Can we trust that this invention is genuinely yours?" Those words stabbed through his moment of triumph, sending a shiver down his spine. The judge's skeptical gazes felt like daggers. The applause from the crowd faded into anxious whispers. Jake took a deep breath, trying to gather his scattered thoughts. He had worked tirelessly, pouring his heart and soul into his invention. But now, standing before them, he felt the weight of proof pressing down like an anvil. "Trust," he murmured, staring at the panel with urgency. "Trust comes from understanding. I want to show you not just what this machine can do, but the story behind it." He turned slightly to face the audience, the familiar faces of his family and friends grounding him. "It all started in the very fields I grew up in. Every inch of this invention carries a piece of my past. The bumps on this machine are echoes of the rough terrain my father and I worked through. The colors? Inspired by the sunsets we shared, watching the land we love. With each word, Jake felt the fire stoked by nostalgia and passion grow bolder inside him. Can it be that simple? He thought. Can they see this isn't just steel and bolts but a legacy of dreams? Eyes began to soften in the audience, vulnerability in their reactions stirring within him an unexpected wave of support. The lead judge's expression, while still stern, appeared less rigid. Perhaps it was the spark of connection that Jake was eager to ignite. I can prove it, he declared, feeling a surge of determination. Let me show you how the design works with real-world applications. It's not just about mechanics. It's about people, families, and building a community. Jake moved with renewed vigor to the front of the stage. He engaged the prototype's controls, demonstrating its efficiency with every press of a button. The machine came alive in a symphony of whirs and beeps, each movement an embodiment of his journey. The audience watched in awe, dividing their focus between Jake's animated explanation and the machine performing flawlessly. With a final flourish, he turned off the device. Jake stood in silence for a moment, his heart pounding against his ribs. Would this performance be enough? The room was suffused with a buzzing energy, and for a brief instant, he dared to hope. Finally, the head judge leaned forward, stroking his chin thoughtfully. You have passion, Jake, and a compelling story. But what we still need is tangible proof, documentation, validations. Your invention must also stand up to scrutiny from experts in the field. The air shifted around Jake, his heart falling a fraction. Experts. He had been so wrapped up in the personal aspects that he had almost forgotten this crucial step. Just then, thoughts flashed through his mind. Consulting his network, gathering endorsements, showcasing evidence of his work. He could muster the resources. But you have something special here, the judge added, a glimmer of encouragement in his eyes. Keep pushing. Don't let this setback dim your passion. You have potential and we want you to explore it. Hope flickered back to life within Jake, igniting a newfound sense of purpose. This was not the end but merely another hurdle to overcome. As the applause resumed, louder than before, his father's face once again beamed with pride. The crowd's energy enveloped him like a warm blanket, and in that moment, he understood. The fight wasn't just for his invention. It was about proving to himself that he mattered. Jake stepped down from the stage with resolve. The machinery of his dreams was shifting, and he was prepared to adapt and grow. Yet deep inside, a question lingered: how would he navigate the maze that lay ahead, facing those who doubted his truth? The crowd started to disperse, and as he turned to exit the stage, a figure approached him. It was an old friend from town, a brilliant inventor in her own right. She raised an eyebrow, a playful smile on her lips. I heard you might need a little help. What if I told you I have some contacts that can turn up the volume on your story? Could this be the ally he desperately needed? Or was he about to plunge into another unexpected turn of fate? The fire within him ignited again, a thrilling mix of tension and excitement surging through his veins, as he realized that the adventure was far from over. Jake felt a rush of gratitude wash over him as he absorbed his friend's words. You have no idea how much I could use help right now, Jenna. She smiled knowingly, her eyes sparkling with the promise of possibility. Let us meet tomorrow and come up with a plan. I have a few people in mind who might be interested in backing you, but I need to understand your project more thoroughly before I pitch it. Jake nodded, a wave of optimism flooding him. This wasn't just a glimmer of hope. It was a lifeline. The thought of gathering documentation and endorsements seemed a little less daunting now, especially with someone like Jenna at his side. They exchanged contact details and promised to meet at the local diner the next day. As Jake left the venue, he felt lighter, more determined. The snap of the evening air around him was refreshing, as if he were shedding the weight of uncertainty and stepping into something new. He arrived home to find his father sitting on the porch, a knowing grin on his face. How'd it go, son? The pride in his voice made Jake's heart swell. It was a bit rocky at first, Jake admitted as he took a seat beside him, but I think I've got a way forward. I might have a team forming to help me gather everything I need. Good, his dad replied, placing a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder. You've always had a knack for turning obstacles into opportunities. Jake chuckled, remembering the countless times they had muscled through challenges together in the fields, his father teaching him resilience, just as much as technique. Yeah, I guess it's kinda my thing. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, soaking in the familiar night sounds, crickets chirping, the distant hum of a car on the highway. Yet, his mind was churning with thoughts of tomorrow. He needed to strategize. Jake had to be ready for whatever questions or doubts Jenna's contacts might raise. The next morning, he woke early, excitement fluttering in his belly. As he prepared for their meeting, he scribbled down ideas, questions he might encounter, and possible solutions. Each word on the page felt like armor, preparing him to stand as an equal among experts who had years more experience. At the diner, the smell of coffee and fresh donuts welcomed him as he took a seat in a cozy booth. Jenna arrived a few minutes later, her laptop tucked under her arm. She set it down between them, flipping it open and revealing a colorful array of notes and slide designs. All right, she said with a grin. Let us dive in. Tell me everything you can about your invention, and let us see how we can make it irresistible to these experts. Jake poured his heart into the explanation, just as he had done on stage. She listened intently, jotting down key points and asking questions to clarify his vision. With each detail he shared, her enthusiasm grew, and he felt his confidence rebuild. They rifled through different angles, imagining the impact his invention could have on the community, real solutions for real problems. But as they brainstormed, Jake felt an underlying tension building within him. What if they want me to change my design? What if they don't understand the story behind it? Remember, it's your vision, Jenna assured him. Stay true to your roots. They see the value in that. When they wrapped up their session, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. But the lingering question, would he have to choose between staying true to himself and gaining acceptance from the experts? The conversation in the diner had ignited a fire, but Jake knew the battles were just beginning. As they exited the diner, a thought struck him. What if I not only have the invention but a way to bring it to life with the community? What if I could showcase it at the fair? Jenna glanced at him, an intrigued look spreading across her face. That's not a bad idea at all. But are you ready for the attention that might bring? With his heart racing once again, Jake replied, I guess we'll have to see, won't we? As they walked away, Jake couldn't help but reckon with the magnitude of the journey ahead. Each step felt like he was balancing on the edge, ready to leap into the unknown. Would he soar, or would he fall? An electrifying mix of hope and fear coursed through him as he considered the next steps. The clock was ticking, and soon enough, he'd face his next big challenge. Would he be ready? Would he make the right decisions? And could he truly turn his dreams into reality? Jake spent the rest of the day buzzing with ideas. Focusing on the fair showcased what his invention was truly capable of could not only help him gain exposure but also build a community around it. He could already imagine the excitement in the air, the vibrant colors of tents, the sound of laughter, and the smell of popcorn filling the spaces between booths. The idea blossomed in his mind, but then a new wave of uncertainty crashed over him. What if it flopped? What if no one was interested? He shook his head, willing away the negativity. Jenna's voice echoed. Stay true to your roots. He couldn't forget that. Later that evening, he sat on the porch again, the setting sun painting the sky hues of orange and pink. His father joined him, handing over a cold drink. What's got you so deep in thought? I'm thinking about the fair, Jake confessed. What if I showcased not just my invention but how it can make a difference for our community? His father's brow furrowed slightly, reflecting consideration. That's ambitious, Jake. But you know that with ambition comes risk. I get that, Jake responded quickly, but it feels like the right thing to do. If I can show people how it works, get them involved, maybe I'll start building that community we talked about. His dad leaned back, studying Jake with pride. Sounds like you're ready to take a leap. Just keep your feet on the ground. Okay? Don't lose sight of what really matters. As they talked, Jake jotted down ideas for demonstrating his invention at the fair. He envisioned a booth where he could not only display it but also show how it could solve real problems, maybe even give demonstrations to draw people in. With determination fueling him, he felt that spark of excitement again. The next day flew by in a whirlwind of preparation. Jenna was ready to hit the ground running. They spent hours refining the presentation, with Jenna helping to design eye-catching flyers and attention-grabbing visuals. Together, they crafted a compelling story around Jake's invention, emphasizing its roots in the community. "See? This isn't just about you," Jenna enthused as she pulled together their notes. "It's about something bigger." There was a thrill in that realization. His invention wasn't merely a product. It was a hope for positive change. As they wrapped up, Jenna looked at Jake, her expression serious. "You know we can get this all set up for the fair. But once the spotlight's on you, it means stepping up whether you like it or not." Jake swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling into his chest. "I know. I have to be ready for anything. But what if I fail?" "Then you'll learn," she replied firmly. "There's strength in vulnerability. Don't fear it." The reality of what he was about to embark on loomed larger than ever. With each step into the unknown, doubt began to creep in again. The night before the fair, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, rethinking every possible angle. What if people didn't get it? What if they laughed? His heart raced, nervousness clawing at his gut. Morning light broke softly through the window, signaling the day of the fair. Jake jumped out of bed, feeling a mix of excitement and dread coursing through him. As he drove to the fairgrounds, he glanced around at the bustling townsfolk, families laughing and children running alongside the path. His resolve began to harden. When he arrived, the fair was alive with colors, sounds, and smiles. But there was no time to waste. It was time for him to put everything on the line. As he approached the bustling entrance to set up, he caught sight of the crowds gathering, the anticipation palpable in the air. This was not just a fair. This was a chance to transform his dreams into reality. Jake took a deep breath. With his heart pounding, he whispered to himself, "Here goes nothing." But would the risk be worth the reward? Would he make the impact he hoped for? Or would he find himself lost in the crowd? All he could do now was dive in headfirst and pray he would emerge victorious. Jake moved through the sea of vibrant tents and cheering families, his heart racing with each step. The energy surrounding him crackled like electricity, but all he could focus on was the booth waiting for him. His booth, the space where he would lay everything on the line. Jenna was already there, a whirlwind of enthusiasm, adjusting the colorful banner they designed together. "You made it. Are you ready?" she asked with a grin that could light up the dimmest corners of doubt. Jake forced a smile but felt the weight of nervousness press on his chest. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, his voice trailing off. As he helped Jenna finalize the setup, a mix of self-doubt and excitement bubbled inside him. He took a moment to absorb the fair atmosphere. The kids, wide-eyed and giggling, tugged at their parents' clothes to guide them toward games and treats. The smell of candy apples filled the air. "Look over there." Jenna pointed excitedly. "The cooking contest. We could hold a mini-challenge to engage people." Jake nodded, but his gaze was elsewhere. His eyes darted towards a group of adults gathered at a nearby booth, laughing and chatting, amped up by the boisterous competition. The thought of failing in front of them felt like ice in his gut. "Jake," Jenna's voice broke through his thoughts. "Let us focus on the people who will come by here. We're going to show them what your invention can do." "Yeah, you're right," he replied, trying to shake off the creeping negativity. "It's just what if they don't see it? What if it's just another idea that fades away? I think you underestimate how much people want to connect with something real." She reassured him, her tone earnest. "Your invention isn't just an idea. It's a chance for them to be part of something, to make their lives easier, to share in that excitement." The countdown began in Jake's mind. Soon, the fair would officially open, and their dreams would be put to the test. He felt an urgency building, yet deep inside, a small voice whispered that it could still go wrong. As the gates swung open, a river of eager attendees flowed in. Enthusiasm bubbled in the air, yet Jake felt like an outsider looking in. He took a breath, pushing himself to the front of the booth, his presentation material ready. Remember to start with your story, he reminded himself. It's about them, not just you. Slowly, a few curious faces approached. They peered at his invention, intrigued but skeptical. As he launched into his pitch, he noticed a little girl with sparkly shoes standing at the edge of the crowd, fidgeting with her hands. "Hi there." Jake knelt down to address her, lowering his voice. "What do you think of my invention? Would you like to see how it works?" Her eyes lit up and she nodded. That small moment rekindled a flicker of hope within him. But as he began to demonstrate, a whisper rippled through the crowd. Some laughed, pointing at the device, whispering to one another. Jake's heart plummeted, the laughter ringing in his ears like a death knell. Jenna stepped forward, sensing his frozen state. "Hey, everyone, check this out. It's more than what it looks like." Her enthusiasm broke the tension, pulling attention back to Jake. He felt a surge of gratitude. Maybe he wasn't alone in this after all. As he continued his demonstration, Jake pushed past the humiliation that threatened to rise. He showcased its features with passion. "This can help with local problems like food waste or energy efficiency. Imagine how this could change our community." As he spoke, he watched the faces of the crowd. The laughter faded, replaced by smiles and nods of understanding. Could he really be reaching them? But just as Jake started to see the flicker of interest in their eyes, he noticed a familiar figure standing at the back, arms crossed. It was Mr. Hargrove, the town's leading inventor, known for his cutting remarks. The last thing Jake wanted was to have him silently judging his every move. Jake's confidence wavered again, uncertainty washing over him. What would Hargrove think? Would he scoff at his ideas? Jake's heart raced. As he looked around at the crowd and the little girl smiling brightly, he pondered. Wasn't it worth it to push through? Or would he let one person extinguish this flicker of hope? Imagine if one small idea can spark a big change. The question lingered, challenging him to dig deeper, to push harder, to transform not just the day but his own path. But could he embrace that challenge, even with fear clawing at him? Jake took a deep breath, forcing his gaze from Mr. Hargrove back to the smiling faces in the crowd. He felt a sudden rush of determination. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for that little girl in sparkly shoes and for everyone who wanted to believe in change. "All right, let us try this again," he announced, his voice stronger than he felt. "What I'm showing you today is not just an invention. It's a chance to make our community better, and I want each of you to be a part of that." His words resonated, drawing people closer. They leaned in, curiosity overcoming their doubt. Jake used every ounce of energy he had to speak with passion, weaving in stories of how the invention could help families save money and protect the environment. He illustrated scenarios of back-to-school season filled with fresh produce instead of wasted food, a neighborhood that thrives through shared resources, and a future where kids grow up understanding the value of sustainability. Behind him, Jenna cheered him on with every word, her eyes sparkling with pride. The positivity in her expression fueled Jake's resolve. Each nod from the crowd felt like a step forward, inching him closer to his goal. But just as he started to gain their trust, he felt it again, that familiar shadow lurking at the edge of his project. Mr. Hargrove uncrossed his arms and stepped forward, his demeanor calm but unyielding. "Fairy tale pitches don't solve real problems," he said, his voice cutting through the excitement like a knife. "What makes your invention any different from the countless others that have tried and failed?" Jake's stomach nodded. He could feel the weight of the crowd's gaze shifting to him, anticipating his response. The air around him grew thick with tension and high stakes. "Because," Jake replied at last, leveling his voice to sound both confident and genuine, "this isn't just an idea, it's a movement. It's about working together to create solutions. It's not just about me or my invention. It's about everyone who uses it." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "This is about community." There was a moment of silence. Then one person in the crowd clapped, breaking the heavy air. The applause spread, a ripple effect of encouragement that flooded Jake with renewed hope. Suddenly, the little girl with sparkly shoes stepped forward, her confidence belying her small stature. "Can I try it?" she asked, gazing up at Jake with bright eyes full of wonder. "Of course," he replied, feeling a flood of warmth. He beckoned her closer and showed her how to operate the device. As she smiled with delight, the crowd erupted into laughter and excitement. Jake stepped back and watched. That single moment turned into a wave that transformed the atmosphere. Parents began asking questions, and neighbors exchanged stories about their struggles with wasted food and energy. For the first time, Jake felt like he was forging real connections, not just sharing a pitch. His heart raced as a crowd began to form, the whispers now filled with excitement, not mockery. They were envisioning the potential, brainstorming together how they could implement his design. Could it be? Had the tide truly turned? But even amid this wave of support, a nagging doubt tugged at him. Would Hargrove's skepticism linger in the minds of those gathered? Just when it seemed that Jake's worries were receding, he noticed Hargrove still observing from the outskirts. His expression unreadable. Before Jake could gather his thoughts, Jenna squeezed his arm. "Look at them. They want this." Jake nodded, a smile creeping onto his face. But insecurity surged again. What if this was just a fleeting moment of enthusiasm? How would they react under real pressure? "Do you all think we can make this work?" he called out, uncertainty slipping back in, his hands shaking slightly. And as the sound of their enthusiastic yes echoed through the fairgrounds, Jake felt a spark igniting once more. The day wasn't over. The challenge still lay ahead. The real test would be if he could keep this momentum going beyond the fair, if they could really make a difference together. Could he turn his hope into a lasting change? Or was this just a brief glow in the dark? With eyes scanning the crowd, Jake felt an electrifying rush. The path to potential fame or failure spread before him, yet one thing was clear. Change had begun. But would it carry him forward? Or would he stumble right at the finish line? The cheers from the crowd washed over Jake like a wave. Each clapping hand felt like a gentle nudge, pushing him further toward his dreams. He glanced at Jenna, who beamed at him, her enthusiasm undeniable. She leaned in close, whispering, "You've got this. Just keep them involved." Taking a breath, Jake nodded, letting the electricity in the air spark his confidence. "Let us talk about how this can serve us." He pointed to a family in the front row, who had been nodding along with everything he said. "What's one challenge you face every week?" A woman with disheveled hair and a toddler in her arms spoke up. "Every week, I've got fresh produce going bad before we can finish it. It's money thrown away." "Exactly," Jake replied, feeling a strange sense of unity growing among them. "If we can create a system that helps families manage their food better, think of how much we can save." The crowd murmured in agreement. Heads were nodding, and Jake felt a knot of tension loosening in his stomach. But then, just as quickly, that voice of doubt crept in again. "Mr. Hargrove." He disappeared. The man reared his head like a specter, casting shadows over Jake's growing hope. "And what's to stop people from ignoring it, Jake? You think they'll just change overnight?" A hush fell, and Jake felt cold sweat trickle down his back as all eyes turned toward him. The cheers faded momentarily, replaced by nervous whispers. That familiar tension returned, squeezing his heart. Desperate to bring light back to the moment, Jake paused to gather his thoughts. "It's not about changing overnight," he finally said. "It's about starting a conversation. It's about small steps. Every small action in our homes leads to significant shifts in our community." He locked eyes with the little girl in sparkly shoes, drawing strength from her innocent grin. "We can't solve it all at once, but we can make gradual changes." Slowly, someone in the crowd clapped. Jake's heart leaped as the sound picked up, rippling through the crowd once more. "What if we create a sustainable community garden?" he suggested. "Place for everyone. People can donate work, planting seeds together. We can share the harvest." The enthusiasm swelled again, and he felt the tide turning. Families began discussing how they could join forces. Ideas flowed in a fun brainstorming session, laughter bubbling like soda pop in the air. Jake couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the neighbor who usually kept to himself joining in with eager whispers about beekeeping and crop rotation. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from the periphery. "This sounds unrealistic." It was Mr. Hargrove again, cutting through the excitement like a wet blanket. "You think they'll really commit?" Jake's heart sank. Just when it felt like they were building momentum, Hargrove was back to snuff out the flame. But he knew he had to respond with fire of his own. "Hey, we're not all in this alone," Jake began, lifting his chin defiantly. "Everyone here is looking for a solution, and this is what it starts with. If we work together, it's not unrealistic. It's achievable." His voice rose above the murmur, echoing through the fairgrounds. The crowd grew quieter, a body of whispering energy hung suspended in the air. They were examining themselves, reflecting on their own doubts. Do we want to keep throwing money away? Or do we want to build something that lasts and grows? He pressed, allowing the question to linger in the air like an unturned stone. The murmurs began again, this time filled with excitement. A man in the back shouted, "Let us just try. Let us see where it takes us." Jake felt a rush of relief. Yes, this was what he needed: belief and action. But just as the excitement built around him, he caught Mr. Hargrove's eye. The older man didn't seem convinced. What was he planning? Jake's heart pounded, knowing they were in a delicate moment. "What if we put this idea to the test?" he proposed, locking in on Hargrove. "Let us take a small step together. If it doesn't work, then we'll pivot. But if it does?" He let the possibilities hang in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. It was a gamble, but somehow it felt right. Jake's fingers clenched at his side, his pulse racing with the thrill of awaiting not just applause, but possibilities. Could he really turn the tide in his favor? Or would it all slip through his fingers? Jake felt the energy shift as the crowd began to murmur among themselves, each voice adding to the growing excitement. People were making eye contact again, smiling. It was like a spark igniting a dry field, and he couldn't help but smile too. The knot of doubt that had tightened in his stomach began to loosen, just a bit. "What's the first step then?" someone shouted from the back, breaking the weight of the moment. A wave of hopeful anticipation rolled through him as more voices chimed in, eager and animated. "Let us have a community meeting," Jenna suggested, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "We can set a date, invite everyone, and start planning this garden." "Yes." Jake's voice joined hers, and the crowd perked up even more. "Let us start small. We can choose an open lot, maybe even speak to local businesses for support. Takes a village, and we are that village." As laughter and suggestions bounced around like a game of catch, Jake caught Hargrove's eye again. The man was still, his arms crossed, eyebrows furrowed. A part of Jake wanted to challenge him directly, to push against the negative energy, but he held back, focusing on the warmth of the crowd instead. They needed him to be their champion, not to bicker over pessimism. "All right, let us get organized," Jake called. "Who can volunteer this Saturday to scout out the best locations?" Hands shot up, and his heart swelled. Grandpa Mulligan, a local elder, stood. "I've got some tools we can use. I'll bring my truck." Another woman shouted, "I can help organize donations. I bake. Let us sell some cookies for funds." The creative energy crackled around him, smooth and powerful. For a moment, Jake felt invincible, as if the world outside the fairgrounds melted away, leaving just this determined group of neighbors ready to stand shoulder to shoulder in hope. But then, almost as if on cue, Hargrove cleared his throat, piercing through the euphoria. "This is all fine and dandy, but what happens when it rains? Or if someone doesn't show up? You're banking on goodwill. Are you sure you're ready for that?" The room shifted, and Jake felt a cold prickle run down his spine. That old fear reared its head. What if Hargrove was right? Worries flooded back, creeping up again, but Jake steadied himself. "Every project has risks, Mr. Hargrove, but those risks are outweighed by our desire for change. We won't let setbacks define us." He sensed a few nods, a few hesitant smiles from the crowd. Even if Hargrove's words hung like a thin veil of doubt, The warmth of belief started to weave its way through, binding them tighter together. The crowd was hungry for genuine transformation, and they were willing to put fear aside for something greater. "Let us make a pact." Then, Jake proposed, catching the crowd's attention once more. "For every obstacle we face, we will meet it with 10 ideas. If it rains, we'll build a canopy. If someone drops out, we recruit someone else. Together, we'll be relentless." A cheer erupted, louder than the last, washing over them like a thunderstorm of hope. Jenna's unwavering smile strengthened his resolve, giving him courage. Still, as the excitement began to ebb into plans and chatter, Jake caught Hargrove's disapproving gaze lingering on him. It made his insides twist. What was Hargrove really after? Was he just a skeptic, or was he a roadblock hiding a bigger agenda? In that moment, Jake knew they were at a crossroads in every sense. The laughter, the ideas, the pact they had formed all rested on the edge of uncertainty. What would happen in the next few weeks when the hard work began? Would they rise together or would they crumble under their own weight? As he looked out at the crowd, he understood there were no guarantees. He just had to believe and lead them toward the unknown. "Let us take this journey together," he shouted, raising his hands as if embracing the crowd. "No matter what we face ahead, let us remember why we started." But as shouts of yes filled the air, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that even as he built them up, something dark lurked at the edge of this newfound hope. What if Hargrove had more influence on the community than anyone realized? Jake swallowed hard, his heart racing. Would he have what it took to ensure this dream didn't just slip away? The questions lingered, begging for answers. As he led the crowd forward into a new chapter of uncertainty, excitement, and the quest for change. Would the fire of belief continue to burn, or would it falter the moment it faced true adversity? The buzz of preparations for the community garden was electric, filling Jake with a fierce determination. He spent weeks rallying support, knocking on doors, and organizing countless meetings. The idea of growing something tangible became a powerful symbol for every neighbor, a shared dream that sprouted from a simple concept. Finally, the day arrived when seeds would be planted both in the ground and in their hearts. As Jake stood at the edge of the empty lot, he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Everywhere he looked, he saw familiar faces. Old friends, neighbors, and even Mr. Hargrove, who had grumpily agreed to oversee the tools. Despite his initial skepticism, Hargrove showed up, and that alone felt like a victory. "Ready to make some magic happen?" Jenna nudged Jake, her smile illuminating the morning sun. "Yeah," he replied, his voice steady. "Let us get this going." With a deep breath, Jake stepped forward to address the gathering crowd. "Thank you all for being here today. This is not just a garden." The crowd shifted, eyes on him, ready for something more. "It's a chance to nurture our community, to grow together and create a legacy we can be proud of," he continued, his voice rising. "These plants will not only feed us, they'll bind us as a family, a community strong enough to weather any storm." Cheers erupted, filling the air with optimism. Jake felt a rush of gratitude, knowing how far they had come. Alert and spirited teamwork marked the day as neighbors dug into the earth, painting the day with laughter and support. Yet, amidst the joy, doubt still lingered like a shadow. A nagging voice whispered in Jake's ear, what if it wouldn't work? But instead of letting the fear fester, he chose to lean into the moment, actively participating alongside everyone else. Halfway through, as they broke for lunch, an unexpected storm rolled in. Dark clouds gathered, and the wind threatened to sweep away their hard work. Gut-wrenching memories of doubt surfaced while the group looked up nervously, but Jake remained resolute. He pointed at the obstacles ahead. "We push through together. If we face the rain, it means our seeds will drink deep and flourish." Whether it was adrenaline or genuine belief, the crowd followed his lead. They erected a canopy to protect their efforts. Laughter mixed with determination as they kept planting. They planted seeds amid raindrops, their joy unyielding. Jake couldn't help but smile as he saw Jenna hand a shovel to Hargrove, coaxing him to join. As the garden flourished, so too did Jake's confidence. Over the next few weeks, transformation blossomed not just in the soil, but within each individual who participated. Soon the garden became a haven of fruits and vegetables, and a regular gathering place where neighbors shared stories, ideas, and laughter. However, the internal struggle with Hargrove persisted. One day, Hargrove approached Jake. "You've inspired these people more than I thought possible," he admitted, his tone softer. "But you need a business proposal if you want any real backing. You cannot ignore the numbers." Jake took a deep breath. "You're right," he said. "I want this to work, but it's not just about a proposal. It's about our community, not just profit margins." 2 months in, Hargrove replied thoughtfully, "Most of them will drift off once the excitement fades unless you show them results." That night, lying in bed, Jake reflected on Hargrove's words. He realized he had to meld inspiration with practicality. Renewed determination coursed through him. Armed with data, he reached out to local farms and businesses, seeking partnerships and support. By using their stories of impact, he crafted a powerful proposal. Weeks later, he stood in front of a committee of local leaders, sweat pooling on his brow. "This isn't just a garden," he presented passionately. "It's a core of revitalization for our community. We're not just growing vegetables. We're cultivating connections that will last beyond summer. We need your support to make this enterprise sustainable." After a tense silence, one of the committee members spoke up. "We see potential here, but we also need a solid plan. If you're willing to broaden your approach, we could help." The sense of triumph that flooded through Jake felt almost surreal. They were willing to embrace the vision he had nurtured. As he walked out of the meeting, he felt lighter, infused with hope. The garden thrived, expanding into workshops and community events, uniting everyone more closely. Jake was no longer just a farm boy. He was a catalyst for change and growth. When summer folded into fall, the local harvest festival drew crowds of families, excitedly sharing their bounty from the community garden. Laughter filled the air, and Jake stood proudly with his family. He loved every second of witnessing the revival blossoming around him. In that moment, Hargrove approached him. "You did it, kid," he said, offering a rare smile. You might just inspire more than just a garden." Jake felt pride swell within him, realizing they had grown together. Dreams could evolve into reality, and in every seed planted, he discovered roots that anchored him to family, community, and hope. Now, as he looked at the thriving garden, he thought of his grandfather's words. "Even the smallest seed can grow into the mightiest tree." Today, as he watched the fruits of their labor flourish, he knew the journey was just beginning. This was his moment, and he savored every bit of it. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support for our journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing you inspiring tales. And comment below with how you felt about Jake's transformation and your hopes. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful story of community and growth. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support is crucial, and only true fans understand how much these actions mean to us.